video together for any husbands, boyfriends, spouses that are looking to support their significant other in their area in business. And I wanted to kind of share my experience of kind of being on both sides of the coin of a husband, in how I eventually progressed to try to take a supportive role on to help my wife's business. And it probably starts all the way back to the first time my wife actually was introduced to Nerium by our good friends, Patrick and Shalyn Murphy. And Shalyn had called Samantha up probably a little over 4 years ago, and told her about what she had recently just got started with. And at the conclusion of that conversation, I happened to be there when that conversation was going on. I looked at my wife and said, "No way, these things don't work. Don't do it. Politely bow out and move on." And a lot of that all came from just years of coming across people here and there that had gotten involved in some sort of network marketing business, and anybody that I knew that had gotten involved, it never seemed to pan out. So I kind of, from the knowledge I knew prior to us getting involved, I looked at these things as you kind of throwing money out the window. No one ever makes it, and it's just not necessarily a good investment of money or time. So, let's save ourselves the troubles and move on. And so we didn't do anything at that point. And then, fast forward 5 or 6 months later, I was on the phone with Patrick, catching up, and had asked him how things had went with Shalyn and the business that she was doing. And I think I was probably anticipating a story along the lines of, hey, we did it for a little bit, but it didn't, things didn't, work out. And fortunately, I got the exact opposite answer. And he was telling me how much success she'd had in 4 or 5 months, of being involved. And I was blown away, because this is the first person I've ever come across who had been involved in any one of these types of network marketing opportunities that actually had success. So, of course, after I got off the shock value of it, I started asking questions to figure out, well, like, how did that even happen and what'd she do? And, we talked for probably 20, 30 minutes. And by the end of that conversation, I realized a couple things. One, I was obviously wrong, and I have to figure out how to go in and tell my wife that, remember when I told you not to do this because they don't work? Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, Patrick and Shalyn's had a lot of success. It's working for them. And maybe, I also got to figure out, how do I get her excited about now doing something I told her not to do? So, to say the very least, it was an interesting conversation, but it eventually did lead to her getting involved. And from the perspective that I was in as a husband, at this point in time, it was a bunch of anti-aging products, which I have no clue about anything about anti-aging or using products. So I never saw how I would ever be of help or would have any interest in getting involved. And so therefore I really didn't, besides, probably supporting my wife and making sure if she needed to go do something, that I was there to kind of help and support her. Also probably just always checking in to find out, hey, if you got paid, where's the money, is in the bank account, etc. And that was pretty much it. Was just trying to be supportive and encouraging what she was doing, but I had no involvement in terms of the business actually growing, and that went on for probably 4 or 5 months. But what I did see, over those 4 or 5 months, I saw her build a nice little business that continued to kind of grow itself. And every month it got a little bit bigger. And what was really exciting, even in the first handful of months, was just having that influx of extra income coming in. Certainly took a lot of pressure off me, with different finances. And I'm sure she felt it too. But as a husband, and maybe it's me, but I'm sure probably for a lot of others, you carry that financial burden and that stress, and having a lot of credit card debt and still having a lot of student loans that we needed to pay off, and doing good in our careers. She was getting paid very well as a full-time special ed teacher. I was obviously in the business world and had ran a company for 15 years and was working more in the traditional corporate setting at that point in time too. And we were doing good in our careers, but still always just struggled to get ahead of the 8 ball and catch up and pay things off so we can start putting money towards other things that would be more beneficial for our family's future, college funds for the kids, more money into our retirements, those type of things. And we weren't able to tackle those things because we're always just trying to catch up with, the debt that, a lot of people unfortunately have to deal with, right? So in those early months, that extra money was really, it was great. It helped tremendously. Seeing an extra couple $100 come in every week, or an extra $1,000 a month, really made a significant difference. And after those 4 or 5 or 6 months, seeing it get bigger and bigger and bigger, I became a little bit more curious behind what was really behind those products that my wife was sharing with, her friends and her audience. And I remember it was probably about 6 months in, she had earned a promotion as a senior director, where she earned this Lexus car promotion, which, shocked me in the fact that in a matter of a short period of time, she earned a promotion that got us an opportunity to get rid of one of our car payments and be able to drive around a Lexus, which was exciting. But even with that too, that month, I think she made, 2-3 thousand bucks. And I was looking at it going, geez, I watch you come home after working, a full day and driving an hour and to and from school, and coming home to 2 kids and me. And once kids get to bed, you put a little bit of time into your own business, and you're almost making as much money working 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour max in your side gig, as you are being gone for 10 hours a day in your full-time job. Like, I never thought it was going to get to that level. And when it did, it made me even more curious about, well, if it got here, how much farther could this go, right? Is there really a true business that can be built where it can grow to a point where we can start making choices on what we want to do differently, right? And so the more I kind of did my behind the scenes research and looked at the company and learned a little bit more about the accomplishments and mile markers and their partnerships and products and science and everything, I kept kind of digging for, maybe looking for where the ball was going to drop. I just kept finding more things that made me even more impressed with what I already seen up to that point in time. And it made me realize that, there's something significant here in what she's done in this short period of time. If we keep going like this could become much more significant, right? And I think at that moment I was like, it probably is in my best interest, our family's best interest, to see, is there any way I can help her and support her beyond just, giving her high five, telling her she's doing a good job. If she's got to get on a call or got to go do a party, making sure I can help and take care of things around the house to give her that freedom and flexibility to go kind of build her business. And throughout that process, I started to realize the influence and validation a husband had, because the first time we ever heard about it, I probably was the one that just kind of nipped it in the bud and said, we're not doing this. And I started to think, how many other husbands were like me, whose wives were interested and intrigued, but the husband kind of shot down, the choice of even, giving it a shot, right? And then I saw, when we did decide to do it, that probably a lot of it was me saying, hey, I think we should do it now. And I was just like, I'm sure probably in a lot of other households, the husband becomes a very big influence in some of the decisions that are made when it comes to finances and jobs and secondary incomes and all those things. So maybe one of the things I can do is kind of show the other perspective as a husband on, first coming from, no, these don't work, to, hey, there actually is a lot of opportunity, and there's a flip side to this coin, that this could become something significant. And I had already seen it in 4 or 5 or 6 months, the impact that it had on our family personally, just having that extra income come in, right? So at that point, I asked her, like, what things can I do to kind of be more supportive? And to me, it was a lot about just kind of, how can I mirror match what she's done to get to this point so far? And I watched her every evening get on Facebook and use Facebook to, build interest and put up posts about the products and show before and after pictures and talk about the company and the people's successes and all those things. And, came to grips with the fact that, that's what she's done and that's worked. So why try to reinvent the wheel here? I guess I'm going to have to come to grips with the fact that I got to get more comfortable on social media. And at that point in time, I think I had a Facebook account, but I never utilized it, right? But I saw how much 90% of her business that she built at that point originated from Facebook. So a couple steps I would encourage, and these are steps that I took, and some of it was maybe intentional and thought out, and some of it kind of accidentally kind of fell into place. But one of the things I wanted to do, and I think more of it is just for the fact that I had to kind of slowly get out of my comfort zone, right? To go on Facebook and start pushing night cream and firming lotion to my audience. I was concerned about, what are people going to think? My buddies are going to think I'm all crazy, right? So my approach was, one, just to get on Facebook and start utilizing it, right? Start becoming, having a presence to it, because at that point I never posted ever, right? So I needed to start posting normal stuff. And the other thing I need to do is I realize that it's all kind of a law of average type of thing, where if I have a bigger audience of people, there's certainly obviously a higher percentage that more people are going to show interest. So I realize I need to start probably connecting with people that I've known throughout my life, whether I grew up with, went to elementary, junior high, high school with, went to college, played sports with, worked with, anywhere I've kind of touched. The more people I can, get connected with on Facebook probably is going to increase my probability of being able to support her and drive some business her way. At the same time, she was friending my friends too, because she know they would accept the friend request because she's my wife, right? So she also was connecting with that group too, as she was adding those people too. And so the first thing I did was just start using Facebook, right? And that was a little bit of an uncomfortable thing. And I think, that's natural in anything you do, is you have to step outside your comfort zones and start doing new things for new things to kind of come your way. So I did that for a while. And then when I started posting about Nerium, I took an approach where I didn't want to be in the sales process. I just wanted to be a supporter and endorser of what my wife was doing, what the products were doing, and what the company was doing. So periodically throughout the week, I would put up a post, maybe in regards to just saying how proud I was of my wife, that on top of full-time job, long commute, kids, taking care of me, she still finds a little extra time to better our family's future by trying to make some extra money, sharing a great product, working for a great company, and how much as a husband I appreciate her taking on extra stuff to just kind of better everybody, right? Because I do know sometimes husbands don't like, hey, if this is going to take more time, no, and you don't have time and money, and just kind of downplay it. And I always kind of thought, if I came home and I told my wife I was going to do something in addition to what I was already doing to try to make extra money, her knee-jerk reaction would be to, of course, just support it because it's better for the greater good for our family. So why would I not give her the same opportunity and respect and support to do that too? And being able to do that publicly, I was hoping that other husbands would start maybe looking at my perspective and realize that, maybe if they were like me initially and said, no way, these things don't work, maybe I can give them a different lane to look down and go, well, it maybe not work for everybody, but there are people that do well. Maybe this is something that could help their family situation out like it helped ours, right? I also would put up posts just talking about how I thought the products were really cool, right? Using my own before and after pictures. I used all the products to kind of support my wife so she could take pictures and have more of a library to share to her audience. But, me having that too and showing my own results to people I knew and just talking about, hey, listen, I love the products my wife is sharing and I love what they've done. And here's my before and after, pictures, and just really impressed with the science and the actual results that come from these products. Or a post could be, was geared towards, hey, I'm just really impressed with the company that my wife has, decided to work alongside her full-time job to make some extra money from our family. The company's done this, and this, and they've had these type of accomplishments and broke these records and have been, publicized in these different media outlets and publications, and just kind of being a cheerleader and an endorser of the company, the products, and an endorser of my wife. And I realized that as husbands, we have influence on other husbands, right? That may only be looking at the potential negatives and not looking at some of the potential upsides. And I could be that voice and show the upsides and show a different perspective as a husband to look at this as, hey, maybe this could be good for our family. Maybe this is something my wife should get into. And when I did that, I quickly noticed how fast other husbands and people I've known and went to college with and I hadn't talked to 10 or 15 years were reaching out curious and going, hey, I want to hear more. It seems like you and your wife are doing really well with this. My wife's at home and looking for something to do. Maybe this could be a solution. So I realized I was opening up a bigger audience of people, and my goal was to just kind of take those people and pass them on to her, right? So whenever the conversation came up, whether there was a response on Facebook or I was just out and about and I was listening to conversations that people are having, when someone talked about money or talked about needing extra income for this, I could drop a little bit of a seed in that person. And I always kind of I did it in a manner where I kind of played the dumb husband role. And I hate to say that terminology, but it really is effective because it kept me out of the sales process where someone said, oh, we're trying to, save up for a vacation next year. We're trying to remodel our house. We're paying for kids' activities. And I'm like, hey, I totally know how you feel. We're in the same position. My wife, she picked up this, side business and has done great with it. And there's a handful, like 4 things I would say very quickly, and then I leave it at that. And I'd say, listen, I don't really know much about it, and I wouldn't even try to attempt to describe what she does. She'd probably kill me if I did, but all I know is that she has a lot of fun. It doesn't take any time. She does it from her phone. She's making great money, and the products that she shares, they work. I mean,